Are you new to statue collecting? Or are you interested to get into statue collecting? But trying to keep up with the conversation is a bit hard because everyone is talking in a different language. There's a lot of words and nobody really explains what they are, and you really feel at loss throughout the conversation. Well, don't feel bad about it. We all been through that. When we started, nobody really explained to us what a lot of those words and abbreviations meant. But I'm here to help you out. I want to help you out. So in the next couple of minutes, I want to share with you a lot of these words and a lot of the lingo that we share in statue collecting, so that way you can be up to speed. And next time there's a conversation, you don't feel stupid or feel embarrassed just to ask the meaning of some words. So stay tuned. The first word you're going to hear is whip. Whip, W-I-P. It means work in progress. It's a simple abbreviation, but you're gonna hear a lot of times, you're gonna see a lot of people on Facebook posting this. Here's my whip. You know, this is a whip. I wanna see a whip. Well, the whip technically is just again, it's a work in progress. It's most of the time, it is just a digital rendering of a statue that someone is producing digitally. So when you hear the word whip or somebody showcasing a whip, it's mostly, it's a digital rendering of a statue, or it can be a drawing that someone is creating a project and they want some feedback from everyone else. So that's pretty much what whip is. The next word is TBD. TBD means to be this close. You're gonna see this particularly on special cons, where a lot of showcase or places where they're showcasing statues. You're gonna see on the statues that they're showcasing, on the bottom there's always a little tag where it says TBD, which means to be this close. It means that they don't have a date for release. Particularly, this happens with the first time something is showcased, you're gonna see the TBD. Or sometimes you're also gonna see the words you're gonna see Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Those is the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. You know, the years are divided in quarters. So it really gives you a release time. When it doesn't tell you when it's going to be released, they don't know exactly when. They can say Q1 is going to be released next year, on the first quarter of next year. They can say 2020 Q2 or Q3, Q4. So it kind of gives you an idea. But when you see TBD, it means that they don't have a price yet. They don't have approval yet. Sometimes you're gonna see the sign says pending approval. But TBD means that they're still waiting on, this case, the IP owner to approve that, so they can determine this case, the date for release and also the price. The next one on the list is ES. You're gonna see a lot of people asking, what is the ES? You know, and you're gonna see that a lot in forums and also on Facebook groups. ES means edition size. Every collection has an edition size. You know, if the company decides to sell 1,500 pieces, that's the edition size. That's the ES. So that's the number that the pieces are going to be produced. So the company normally they release the time of pre-orders, the ES. Sometimes they don't, and they determine it later depending on the pre-orders. But the ES that's what determines how collectible some things are. People are looking for lower ES because it means that they have a smaller, you know, it's a smaller quantities, means that it's more collectible. So some people are very concerned about the ES. Some people don't want higher ES because it means that the collectible value of these items is going to be, of course, not as much in comparison to a smaller ES. The next one on our list is NRD. It means non-returnable deposit. That means if you pre-order something, some companies they have this pretty much this clause where they say you pay a deposit in order to pre-order, then they're going to return the money if you decide to cancel, but there's an NRD. It means that there's a fee you have to pay for that. So it's non-returnable deposit. Some companies have pretty much gotten away with it. Companies are no longer doing it, but some of the other companies used to do it. Now, when you are ordering stuff from a custom maker, somebody that doesn't have a license but is making customs, very small customs, and I'm going to explain that word as well in just a moment, they might ask you for a deposit and it's non-refundable. So NRD, it means that, you know, if you're paying for something, you're paying a deposit, whatever amount it is, it's determined whether it's 100 or whatever. If you decide to cancel in the end, you're not going to get to NRD, you know, you're not going to get your deposit back. So that's what NRD means. Now this brings me to the next word, and actually it's a combination of different words, and I want to explain the difference so you know exactly what they mean. You have custom, you have mod, and you have kit. Three different words. Now, custom is any piece that is being produced, I would say, by an individual in a small quantity that is not by a big company. It's not made by a company that has a big license. Most of the time, these are unlicensed pieces. A custom is something that you're going to see a lot. The customs market has grown a lot. A lot of people are doing their own stuff, and that's what technically a custom is. When you hear the word custom, they're talking about a piece that somebody customized, that made from scratch and made it all pretty much in one single shot. And that can include for anything, for any franchise. You're gonna see a lot of them. They're not under a company. Those are customs. Now, a mod is in this case, a piece that comes from a company that has been modified. So you're gonna hear this word a lot, mods. People that add different parts to their pieces, they add extra parts, they change certain things, like sometimes the capes, they change the cape from, I would say, from a regular sculpted cape into a, I would say, cloth cape, or vice versa. Some people change the paint application because the paint application that came with the original is not that good, so they send it to be repainted. That's a mod. That's what a mod is. Now, the next word is kit, and you're gonna see that a lot. When you see somebody saying, I'm selling a kit, they're not selling you a full painted, full put together statue. It's just a piece in multiple parts that needs to be assembled and painted. So you're gonna see a lot of times, because when I was selling some kits in the past, some people thought that I was selling a statue. No, I was selling just a kit, just the parts that need to be assembled like any other part, like a die cast that needs to be assembled. The same happens with statues. They are kits. So those are unpainted kits, but sometimes you're only going to hear the word kit. So keep that in mind. The next word on this list is recast, and this is one that you have to keep in mind. Be careful when you see something on in this case on Facebook, or you see something on eBay, you read the word recast and run away from it. Recast is the worst of the worst. You know, some people trying to compare custom makers with recasters, and it's not the same thing. A custom maker is someone that is making a piece from scratch. It might not have a license, they don't have a license, but they're making a piece from scratch. It's pretty much a personal art. Now, the difference with recasters is they use company pieces, and they bring company pieces and they recast, and they make a mold around this original piece, and they create pretty much a shallow piece out of that. Now, recasting is definitely very bad for business, because they're stealing the original art from someone else that already paid for it, and they selling it for a lesser price and lesser quality. It doesn't have the same quality. Every time you recast something, you're losing some of that detail, the fine-grained detail of the original pieces. So recasting is really bad. So always be careful when you get something, somebody's selling something online on eBay or whatever, and the price feels too good to be true, like really low in comparison to the original price of the piece that that they're trying to sell. Always make sure that you're not buying a recast. The next word on this list is AP. You're gonna see that a lot of people are selling. I'm selling an AP. That means artist proof. Now, what is an artist proof? Well, we have to understand this. Like, again, going back to the ES, a company produces a certain amount of pieces, and they determine the edition size. So let's say they have 1,000 pieces to produce. Now, the company doesn't produce 1,000 pieces. They actually produce probably 1,050 or 1,100, and they keep some of those for, in the case something gets broken in the process of going to your place, so they have parts to replace. But also they produce a certain batch of those that could be 1 to only 20, and they come with the number. You're gonna see sometimes a lot of statues that had an AP on the bottom. Those are kept for personal use. Most of the times the company uses those for their own display. Also to give to the artists that were involved in the process of producing the piece, because a lot of people involved, painters, sculptors, and so on and so on. And sometimes that piece is being sculpted by so many different people. Someone sculpts the base, someone sculpts some parts of the body, and someone sculpts some other parts of the whole sculpture or the whole diorama. So definitely they have some to give away, some to keep in storage just for future reference. And some companies produce a lot of APs, like Bowen Designs did a lot of, in this case, APs. So you're always gonna hear that. Now people say, is this more special, more more valuable? It is not, because they all come from the same production line. They only put the numbers down there and they separate the APs just to keep for themselves, but they're no different than the ones that have been produced for the rest, for the to sell out through their own market or through other distributors. So the same thing. So you always have to keep that in mind. There's a big difference between a prototype and also a factory sample. Those are other words that I want to keep with this one as well. A prototype definitely is the one that is used when they showcase for the first time. When you go, let's say, San Diego Comic-Con, Sideshow always brings, the first time they showcase something, that's a prototype. That's the first piece that they produce, and those are beautiful and they're perfect in all the way. But those are not produced in the factory. Those are produced just to showcase. Now, a factory sample, and it's technically what they produce, and sometimes you're gonna see that a lot with Sideshow does that. Sometimes they bring 1 year they bring the prototype. That's the first time they showcase that. The following year they bring what they call the factory sample, which technically is examples of how it's gonna come out of the factory to your hands. So there's a big difference. There is a prototype, there is a factory sample, and also AP, artist proof. Those are three different things. And they're made in different times throughout the process. The next word on this list is mixed media. You're gonna hear that a lot, and sometimes say, what is mixed media? Well, mixed media, sometimes it's confused, because some people confuse mixed media with only sell a cloth item into a piece, and they say, well, all the premium formats, they have mixed media because they have a part where there's a little bit of leather, a little bit of cloth. But to be honest with you, it is not the only it's the only word that determines mixed media. Mixed media is technically when you mix different mediums of anything, any materials. It could be polystone mixed with plastic, with PVC. It could be cloth mixed, of course, with polystone, or it can be leather. It could be wood, it could be stone, it could be anything. That's what mixed media is. So when you hear the word, it means that they added other parts that are on the sculpt that are not fully sculpted. There's not a one single sculpt. It's not all polystone or resin. There are parts there that also have been added from plastic, or it can be cloth, or it can be, again, leather, or it could be any other material that has been included, so they create one singular piece. Now, the next words on this list: museum pose and action or dynamic pose. What do they mean? What's the difference? Well, there are two kinds of poses. There are actually three, but I'm gonna stick with this two. And one is just a variation of both two. It's like semi-action pose. But a museum pose, it's technically is the most common that was used for Bowen designs. Which technically it's just the character standing up straight. It's a stoic pose, posing for a photograph, and it's all it is. It's a simple. Sideshow does that a lot. There's museum poses. They're easier to display because they're all standing up, so they take less space. So that's what a museum pose. It's kind of like simple statue, simple everything, nothing major. An action pose is more dynamic pose. That's something that is used mostly on a diorama. XM is a company that does a lot of that. Bowen Designs did a lot of that. Kotobukiya was really getting into that. All these companies have done different things. The action pose is someone doing an action pose, an action movement. There's like a showcasing something. They're doing something. They're attacking someone. Dioramas, there's always a story that is told through the diorama. So that's what it is. A semi-action pose is a variation of both, and that's something that we see more nowadays, and that's what Sideshow does. It's a action poses when you see, I don't know, Wonder Woman, for example, holding in this case her shield and throwing her lasso, but it's kind of like it's still an action. It's still a museum pose, but it has some action scene on it. Batman or any other, when they kind of doing the Captain Morgan knee, that's a semi-action pose because they actually doing it like that. But there's a variation, but that's a difference. A museum pose is a stoic classic pose, and action pose is always dynamic. The next words on this list, they're all together, is X, which means exclusive, switch out, and variant. These are very important. When you're ordering something, and I'm gonna give you a funny story. When I got my first Sideshow premium format piece, or you know, it was so many years ago. So I went to eBay and I purchased a piece thinking, oh, it's because I saw a video and I said, okay, let me just purchase this statue so I can get the switch out heads and all that, because that's a switch out is. A lot of pieces, they come with multiple different parts, and all these parts of course are called switch outs. It could be a different head, it could be a different arm, it could be anything that changes the way this piece display. So I bought this from eBay thinking that I'm gonna get the switch out. I didn't know that it was, and it needed an exclusive. So all of a sudden when it came to me, I didn't have the extra part, and I was like, what the heck is this? So I called the guy. I was so upset. The guy didn't respond because I think it was a holiday or something. So I called Sideshow for the first time. I found the number in the box and I called Sideshow. I'm missing this. What I need to do? And they told me, well, it's because this is not an exclusive. And I was like, what the heck is that? And I said, well, I thought everything was exclusive. And they explained to me, and that was a dumb moment for me, but I learned my mistake. I got rid of that piece, and then of course I have to order through them. But it was just an idea. I was new to it. That's so many years ago. It's a funny story. I never told that to anyone. I felt so embarrassed about it, but it was fun. You know, it was a learning experience. So yes, when a lot of companies, they sell exclusives, it means that you can only get them through their retail, through their in this case online store, or you can get them through you know, through their particular system that they use for pre-ordering, and that's an exclusive to them, so you have to buy only through them. When that happened with me, that was even before Sideshow. You know, there was like an online markets like the way we have them now, but definitely that's the way you do it, and that's how you order, and you get an exclusive. Exclusive always have more value than regulars. Regulars is the one that you buy through your local comic book shop or any other place, but a lot of companies, they offer their own versions through themselves, Twitterhead. All these companies, they do it, so it's easier. Bowen used to do it as well. They have their own variants. That's what they call them. That's the difference. You know, in this case, Bowen didn't have exclusive. They have variants, and the variants is like you buy through their direct market through them, but you get something that is a different pose, different anatomy, different everything, that is a variation of the one that is going to be sold through everyone else. The next words on this list are OBO and ship. Now, OBO means or best offer. That's what it means. And it's definitely when someone is selling something and they sell it, I would say through Facebook or even through the forums, they say, you know, a certain amount in OBO. It means that they can take anything or the best offer. So you have to offer. And also sometimes they can say, give an amount. It can say, it's an example, 300 ship. It means that they're including, with the 300, they're including also the shipping cost. So that's a different thing. You know, some people might tell you, hey, you know, you have to pay for shipping plus PayPal fees. That added. Some people include everything into the singular price, and that's what the reason they put down right next to the price. They say ship. Now this brings me to other part of this, and these are the words low bowler or low bowling. And this happens when you're trying to sell something, or you're buying something, or you're trying to do that, and you put your price or best offer, and or you even put ship or whatever, and somebody sends you a message, and the people that are always low bowling, the low bowlers, are the people that are always going, of course, like it's simple, it's easy to understand. They're going to give you like a really ridiculous price. They say, oh, you know, I'll pay you a certain amount. I'll pay you, like, you're trying to sell it for 300, and they say, well, I'll pay you 150. And that's it, you know. And you say that's a low bowling game, you know, number, you know, that they're low bowling you. You know, the price of this piece is 300. You know, if you're going to make an offer, you're looking at you know, an offer that is, you know, based on the price of the item on the market. If you go too low, you're gonna be called low bowler, and you know, take no surprise if they actually shame you on the forums or even on the Facebook groups, because people are going to be outspoken about it. If you are a low bowler, they're gonna actually tell everyone else that you're a low bowler, so people are not going to do deals with you. So always keep in mind that, you know, the price, if that somebody's giving you a best offer, you have to stay with a certain amount. If they're selling for 300, look at the prices online to see how the price of this is. It's already giving you a good price. Maybe, I don't know, like $5, $10, or even $20 offer. That's the best offer, you know. And actually, that's respectful, and the person is going to say yes or no. It depends. Now this brings me to another word that is flipper or flipping, and you're gonna hear that flippers. You know, we know that. You know, everybody in many other different hobbies they use the word flipper. It's a person that it flips the price, and in other words, somebody that buys a product just to resell for higher the cost. And you're gonna see a lot of flippers, and that's something that has always been the case. It was worse when I started in this hobby because back in the day, the systems to order or pre-order online, they were really sketchy. You can go to the website and in 15 minutes everything was sold out or pre-order, and sometimes some people were able to pre-order too with different accounts. They were using different emails and they were pre-ordering so many different pieces so they could sell, and the next day they were already selling on eBay those pre-orders for profit, and they were selling for crazy profit. So flipping is always something that is always seen bad in this and pretty much in this hobby by a lot of people. You know, it's good to sell stuff for profit. You know, I'm not against this economy, it's capitalism, but at the same time, you know, don't be a flipper. You know, so when you hear a lot of times the word flipping is not in the nice tone, people are really upset about it. You know, they're attacking people that are just flipping. So flippers are really not really that welcome in this hobby. Now, another word, and this you're gonna hear a lot, is OG. When somebody says OG and they put a piece on it and they say this is the real OG, of course, it's the old gangster. This is the old king. This is all pretty much the old pieces that were originally created. And most of the time you're gonna hear this with classic pieces from Bowen Designs, from Sideshow, companies that have been for longer than anybody else, and you get their real OGs. Pieces like, in this case, the Hulk. They say the OG Hulk, and they're talking about the Sideshow Hulk, the original Hulk, which is a massive, impressive piece. Those are the real OGs. They're all gangsters. Those are the originals, and sometimes those are, even though quality-wise some of the newer pieces might be better in comparison, those still hold a lot of good, I would say, reputation among collectors. So definitely those are the real OGs. And that brings me to the last word of this list, and is Grail. You're gonna hear this word a lot. Grail, 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 Grail. Now there is some confusion and sometimes people misuse this word a lot. You're gonna see that in this hobby. Grail is a piece. It's considered anything that is really sold out and people want it. But there are two kinds of grails. There are emotional grails, and that's based on individual perspective. And there are also monetary grails. Now, an emotional grail is a piece that you feel attached to and you want to have. It might not be loved by everyone else. People might not like it. It might be a piece in your collection that you prefer, that if you sell everything else, you're still gonna keep that one because to you that's a grail, because you have an attachment. But a lot of people might not even think about that piece. They might not care much about it. That's your personal grail. That's your emotional grail. Now, a monetary grail is a piece that everybody wants, whether it's good or not. They want it not because they prefer it. They want it because it is the most sold out, the most expensive, the rarest of all. It is hard to get a good deal, and those most of the time are the real OGs. Those are the real OGs. Those are the real grails, pieces that can go up for thousands and thousands of dollars. For example, for me, what I considered a real grail in the Bowen Designs line, it would be the original bronze Captain America, Spider-Man, Hulk. Those pieces go for between $7,000 to $10,000 each. They're very small, but they're grails because they only made like 100 of them, and they're super expensive, super rare. Only high collectors collect those. Now in Sideshow, you're gonna see pieces like the Doctor Doom on Throne. That's a grail. The OG Hulk is another grail. Those are pieces that are so rare to find. Captain America is another grail. And of course, now Sideshow has produced others, but when you consider which one is a real grail monetary wise, is that XM Magneto is a grail. You cannot just, that thing can go for $4,000 or $5,000 easily. When they came out, it was $1,000, so definitely there's a lot of value in it, and people want those because those are the most sold out in this hobby. Now, this list includes a lot of words that we normally use on a daily basis on this hobby. You're gonna see that all the time. It gives you a clear idea of what they are. And again, let me go through the list so that way you know. You got the WIP, work in progress. You got TBD, to be disclosed, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, ES, edition size. You got NRD, which is non-refundable deposit. You got custom, mod, kit. Recast, we talk about AP, which is artist proof, prototypes, factory samples, the difference between those. Mixed media, museum and action or dynamic posts. We talk about exclusives, switch outs and variants, OBO and ship. We talk about flippers, and low bowlers, and we talk about OGs, and of course we talk about grails. But is there another word that you have heard that, you know, like you don't know what the heck it means and nobody's really telling you and you don't want to ask the meaning because you don't want to sound stupid asking? Well, just in the comments below, just ask me and I help you out. You know, there's a lot of words and a lot of lingo in this hobby, in this industry. So once again, my friends, thanks for watching. God bless, and I'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.